morning, everybody. Hold on one sec. Let's get your fancy opening. All the grumpy pusses will be happy. I started early. Oh, I'm 6 minutes late. Hold on. Hold on. Let's get a little more coffee, then we'll get to it. Exhausted. Of course it is. This freaking thing. All right, let's go. What the heck? Let's do this. Bum, 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 bum. Good morning. I got the other camera because the one that's $800 sucks. So bear with me. Yay. All right. Get ready. It's going to start being 8:15 all the time. Then what are you guys going to bitch about? Let me make sure I got this right. Email here. Or any issues getting into the community. All right, so I'm going to put this quote back up. And what I want you to do, if you're trying to get in the community and you're having trouble or the server went down again on the billing side, just go here. And just email this guy, the billing department. And for me, I think there's two things to really take away. I'm going to throw that up there again. For me, there's a couple things to really take away from this. Number one, does that work better? There you go. I can get rid of this. Hold on one second. Can I get rid of that? I think I can. That'll do that. But what's the other thing I'm trying to do here? Display information messages on stage. Shift. All right. Well, you're going to have to deal with the name. I'm trying to get rid of that. All right. So in regards to the market, the meltdowns, everyone has their meltdowns. Everyone has their little panics because you have your little meltdown. I personally think you need to look at this and kind of think a little differently about what's going on today. So the very first thing that I tend to see on this is looking for where your support levels are. And before we get into that, I'm going to go through this so that we're all on the same page. And we're going to start here. And drop it down, drop it to here, and get going. Ba, 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 bum, bum, bum. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. All right, cool. So, see where we're at? I still have the sense that you got to come down to here. And I'm still thinking I'm right, but it doesn't mean you're going to do it in a day, which is going to like drive people nuts because they don't know how to manage positions. But if we go through this right here, right, it's another 3%. I don't think you're going past that. But I think you have to undercut it. And a lot of this really has to do with a lot of stuff that's just going on in the market. I mean, it's pretty obvious why it is. But so take a look at the 4-hour and go look at the RSI, and you can see you're already oversold. So usually when you're oversold on a 4-hour, how does that go after 4 hours? Do you tend to bounce on those areas or do you sell lower? You tend to bounce, right? So a lot of people are going to panic this morning. And then I think 4 hours later, they're going to wonder what the heck they did, is kind of where my head's going with this, which has usually been the right thing to kind of think about, even with all that winning, right? Even with all that. So it's usually kind of the area to think that there's going to be some kind of bounce. I don't know. I mean, I just gave you every single one over the past 4 hours, but of 2025, but maybe you think this one's going to be different because you're special. All right. So if I look at something like that, I mean, that's kind of where my head is this morning. I don't really see that, you're going to break down. I mean, you could even actually argue it's the breakout, that you came back to the breakout of that bar. And that actually even makes more sense, doesn't it? Because there's your breakout bar. And so you're retesting the low of that, which is the same area here that you've retested that breakout bar over and over again. So that actually makes a lot more sense, doesn't it? And then if you really drill into that, look how you hit that level. You hit it and bounced. So, okay. And now you're getting a positive divergence before the market even opens, right? Probably really good if you're a futures trader and you're looking at that right now. You're probably all excited. You maybe even have a long there. So might be an area of interest to watch. So I would take a look at that, make sure that it holds. But usually you're going to get some kind of flush in this kind of area and then go from there. And that's really where my head is. I think you're going to flush, scare the bejesus out of people and then go from there. That's what I think is going to happen. Whether it ends today or it takes till Monday or Tuesday, I don't know. I don't have a clue. No one does. But you're getting to that point where, we're going to sell it all down. And, I do think there's some comments that were made. Sam Altman's comments definitely scared the hell out of the market. The job cuts on the market are definitely scaring the hell out of people because they don't have any real data. So they have to rely on corporation data. And that's becoming an issue. And so people could de-risk pretty darn fast here. So what we always want to do with that stuff is just acknowledge it, right? And then just go, okay, well, what do we do now? And then how do we act on this? For me, it's always pretty much the same thing, like set up my processes, follow my process, and then, kind of go from there. You really want to just take a moment before I go any further and go through all your positions. This, I tell everybody this, I tell everyone in the community this. I'm going to tell you the same thing. If you don't go through all your positions and understand how much risk you have, you don't have a trading, you have a dream. So you really need to take a look at that today. And I'm just going to mark that off because I think that that's absolutely huge level. And you really want to watch that level. You really don't want to break there. So you really, really don't want to break that. And I think that's super important to get. And I really do like the whole little RSI thing there, but you need to spend a minute and go through this and truly understand, is this an area where you have to go through this and spend some time and really think about it. Like, why are you like, what is the purpose of selling into today? Like, what is that purpose? Right. So what I always see people do here, and I just always think it's just kind of crazy. I always see people panic like off of this stuff. like you should have your list of names that you're actually interested in and kind of go from there. So that's truly how I see it, right? I mean, it really is. So that's the first thing. If I take a look at the SPY and I look at this, for me, the most important thing about something like the SPY is going to be here and 670, right? So there's that put wall and I'm through it. Now, I don't know that I'm going to stay through that put wall today. Like my thought is that, I usually don't stay through a put wall. I usually bounce through them. So the very first thing that I'm going to want to watch today as a trader is I'm going to want to make sure that I'm, through that level. That's the very first thing that I want to do is make sure I'm through that level. Pardon me. So I don't know what the hell's going on with this thing. And then the other thing throws a light off. Okay. I'm getting a glare from that thing. So if I look at it, you tend to bounce back up to that 670 level. You do tend to do that. The market makers are going to want you to do that. And I really think that that's definitely something that you have to remember, and you're definitely going to have to look at that put wall and kind of go from there, right? You're definitely going to have to pay attention to that put wall. And I think that that's very, very important. So let's go to the Qs. Now, if you look at the Qs, and I want to start there and then I'll go into the NQ, but if you go into the Qs and you look at it, your call wall is up there. Your put wall is not until, your put wall in the gamma now are not till 600. So I actually do think you have a shot of getting there. I actually do think you have a real shot of flushing down there. And, one thing that will happen with markets like this is you will tend to flush. I tend to look at this stuff and think, all right, well, I'm probably early. I usually am early, and I have to respect that I'm usually early with this stuff. I usually am, like getting into like these things that fall apart. I'm usually pretty early. So what I have to do is understand that and then go, all right, well, what am I going to do about that? Like what if I am early? Like what do I do? I tend to do one of two things: understand I'm early and deal with it, or I scale into the trades that I really want to own. And I probably am early. Again, I'm usually trying to think of like Tuesday, Wednesday versus just today with days like this. Because what people will tend to do is they'll predict the next great crisis and the next great crash. And I'm just speaking from experience on this. And if you really look at this chart, like how many times were you right about predicting like the great rotation? Well, if you really go back from 20 on, you had a pandemic, you had winning, right? All that winning that we did, right? Which you could have literally, oh no, this was just the, when the Fed stopped, right? So we have the pandemic, we have all the Fed saying, no, we're not going to buy mortgages and houses to compete against you anymore, right? So they stopped that. They raised rates faster than any time in history, flood the market, double the amount of monetary supply, and then flood the market. NFTs become what? JPEGs become NFTs. Anyway, so you have your pandemic here, 1.7 trillion injected in the market, and then you have the winning and the liberation. If you don't have that, like, you want to bet against this? Okay. So I look at it and go, all right, well, where could we get to? And since the winning and liberation, where have we gotten to and where did we hold? Well, we've really held the 55. All right. So if I gap down today, the very first thing we're going to do is hit 600. You think they're going to break the market? Not break the market. I don't see it happening. So I would watch that like a hawk. Now, I do want to point some things out, like where I could be wrong and they could crack the market. And I think that this is important, but I want to just go through this first, and we're going to mark this off so that you guys get this. And I'm going to get into this big time on Saturday. So you're going to want to watch Saturday's video. But like, you have to think about it from this perspective. You have to think that at some point they might want to come down here and just flush them and see who they get. What do they get out of it, right? I think that that's definitely on the table. 100% that's on the table. So for me, that's really how I see them playing this out. And I'll get to that in a moment. But let me just drop this in for the queue so that I have that set. And then we'll go to this. Because I'll tell you where like if someone said to me, like, where could you be wrong? So like last night, I bought more SanDisk. I don't care what it does because everything that I'm buying puts against at this point. And I'm basically almost even doubling the puts so that I know that if it breaks down, I've got the edge there. And I don't really care because it's something that I truly want to own. And I don't think people are thinking that way right now. I think they're in panic mode. So the first thing that you do when a market falls apart like this, the very first thing that you do is go through all your positions, right? And calculate all your risk and look at where all your stops are. That's the very first thing that you do. Like, I don't care. It's not advice. It's information education. Like, you should actually be going through everything that's in your portfolio and going, how much am I at risk? Meaning, how much am I going to get my ass handed to me, for lack of a better term? Excuse my language. I'm sure Lynn's in here and Lisa's in here. So anyway, so that's the very first thing you do. So you go through your entire book and then you start trying to figure out like where you're at risk. And then are you willing to take that? And then from there, you have to go, all right, what do I want to buy if this collapses? And then where's my stop on that stuff? And then quantify again how much you're about to have at risk. That's what you need to do here, right? That's how you play. That's how you play this out. So like for me, I started buying LEU yesterday. I'll give you an example. And I started picking at it. And now it's down another 20 points. Days like this, I want it down 50. I want them to smoke it, right? So that I can buy it and then look at it later. You have to do what you're comfortable with. But I'm just saying that when I see this kind of stuff, this is exactly what I'm looking for. Like exactly what I'm looking for. I love days like this because everyone will look at this and they won't think to Tuesday and Wednesday. They'll think about today and that they knew that this was all a fraud and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, that's my little speech on this. And that's how you should be viewing this. So I do think that you could get to there. And I'm going to show you where I'm going to be wrong and how I'm going to be wrong. There's two things out there that scare me. There's three. Number one, XLF. So if I look at the XLF, and you should know this before the market opens. If I look at the XLF, you are below the 55. That's not great. If the financials are below the 55, it's not great. I've seen great before. It doesn't involve this. So if we clean this off here, and you can see, try to get through it, bonk, 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 right? Nothing great happens when financials are below that. Now, if I take a look at the SOX, I got a long way to go, right, before I get to a level. But the SOX in and of itself, if I really look at that, you have like a 290 put wall on the SOX. You're right here. The SOX put wall actually moved up. So do I think that the SOX is going to crack today? I don't, unless they want to sell double-digit growth because they're going to call the top, even though earnings crushed. So if they're that smart, they're smarter than me. So I wish them the best. That's the very first thing that comes to mind. And then the second thing for me, and looking at this, like how do I see this, is maybe I flush down to here and that presents opportunity. So like I want them to flush the market. I want them to close below the 55 here. Because if I look at the 55 on what's been happening on these names, well, when do you buy? Do you buy the breakout? No, you buy when he says no chips for China. China, you get no chips for you. Seinfeld, anybody? So like, if you see that, like you want to pay attention to it, right? I mean, that seems like if you bought it when it broke the 55 since earnings, and then you waited 3 or 4 days, it kind of seems like that's a great spot to buy something like that, doesn't it? All right. But if it doesn't work, that's a concern. So if the SOX breaks 290 and then you break that 55 in a couple of days, yeah, that's not great. XLC cracked. So XLC is your Google, okay, which someone should tell it that there's been a market pullback. It's your Meta, which is just a dumpster fire, right? Meta's in a lot of trouble. You can get sub 600. I should probably give you a core level on this one. Now, I'll go through my notes. Yeah, you went through your put wall like butter, man. So you don't have anything to 600. So you probably pinned to 600 today. If the market continues to fall apart, that's probably the one that I would buy. Yeah. Like if the market, like buy puts on, like if the market continued to fall apart, that's probably the one. Like you have a good 14 points there, pretty easy, I think. I don't see how you don't break. Especially when you have that doji and you reverse like that. That was just nasty. I was long this. So I made very, very little. Actually, by the time I got out of the sold puts, I lost money on it. But so there are your names. And then Netflix, right? And Netflix has been sitting at that level, and you can just mark this level off so that you have it. And I'm just going to give you the things that you should really know, and then I'll take some questions if I have it. But today's going to be really treacherous for a lot of people because they still have to go through their portfolios and look at how much they have at risk. They probably haven't done that yet. They're probably thinking about that right now, going through their entire portfolio and looking at how much they have at risk. So when you see things like this, you just want to pay attention to it, right? So where could I be wrong? Well, the XLC is rolling over. We lost that. Okay, well, that sucks. All right, so then we'd start going here and going DJT, and we went to transports, right? And now the transports are not rolling over. All right, so how about the dollar? Dollar's holding. Okay. Do I care about Bitcoin? Not particularly. Everyone seems to be like, well, Bitcoin goes the way the market goes. Okay. For right now, it does, but it's not always like that. And quite frankly, if you look at Bitcoin and you just continually look at picking at it whenever you're down here on the 4 hour, it's probably not the worst thing in the world. And they're walking it down, so they're flushing you out, right? This is not when you panic it. Like this is really, again, when you start looking at it, my RSI might be different than yours because of the settings. So this is not really when you panic it. But if you want to short this stuff, like I've been saying to short BMNR forever, it's an absolute pig. It's like, this was like the easiest money in the world to short BMNR, short SBET. Like these things they sold you fake money to go buy Bitcoin. Like it's a no brainer. I'm short. I short this thing because it's super easy. It's really easy to short this thing. And I'm also short this one, which will probably be a single digits, and everyone will try to figure out why. And I've been shorting this thing since about 250, 260. So that's like those kinds of things. If we go sideways, they're just going to bleed out. They'll just bleed from every orifice. So I think that you could still short that kind of stuff, but on rallies. So I don't know that you want to use crypto as a major hedge. I don't know that you want to use crypto as a major hedge. I don't think there. And I think you want to go there. I'm going to have to leave early today. I can already say it. I love pullbacks, but just FYI, I can already hear this thing going off. Let me do it this way, and then I might do something and come right back. Just give me a second. Let me think about how I'm going to do this. SPY off Thursday. SPY TPL. TPL is super interesting here. MDU, IBM. Yeah. So I think that this gets super interesting. Yeah, I definitely would be looking at things like this. So I like this name a lot. I've done exceptionally well trading this name, like exceptionally well. And I think you're at that kind of level where it makes sense. And the problem with this name is that you have to put yourself in a position here where you're willing to hold for some time. I don't know that I want to do it yet. I am watching it. I do see it. I don't tend to do very well buying stocks below the 200-day when I'm looking at them longer term. So I'm probably going to hold off on it. Now, that said, you have a huge base in here, and you've had that base for some time. And I really think I see where you're going with it. And it always made sense to me because of data centers, man. Like it always made sense to me. But let's see how it goes here. Did I just miss picking this off? Give me 1 second here. I did. Yep. All right. So they're defending Thursday's level. You're going to want to watch that for sure. Faux show. You like that accent? I'll try to never do that again, John. We do win every day. Every day I feel like a winner. Good morning from New York. What's up, Kev? Good morning from Miami. MP, it's probably going low 40s. It was funny. I was just talking to someone about this the other day. Like, I love Miami, but it's not a city. Doesn't have like the city energy. And if you're from a city, you kind of miss it. I think you're getting to that 43, 44. I think that's coming. And then I think that, why do you have me looking at this? What have I done to you? What am I doing wrong? There it is. I'm not going near this thing. I'm not touching it. I'm already confused. I don't like anything about it. Yeah, I have that marked off. You got to it and you formed another doji. The only thing that you have that you did here, brother, that's super interesting is the volume kept kicking and you closed higher. You could have broken, but you got to get through 555. And that QXO I'd avoid. Well, I actually don't think that, I don't know, man. I don't really have a problem with like the whole logo thing. I got other issues. Like I got crap to worry about. What do I think about like the market and like that kind of stuff? I think that's up to everyone to make their own decisions. For me, when I look at something like CBRL, for example, I don't think people are going to this restaurant anymore and going there and spending and then they're realizing they're getting, the fixins and the steak gravy. And then they leave with a bill, it's $100. And they're like, oh my God, like I could have made this at home. Like that's starting to happen. And whether that's happening because of tariffs or it's not becoming because of tariffs is a completely different conversation, right? So you have to think about it. Like we know that the businesses are not eating all the tariffs. We know that the tariffs are definitely helping the government because it's creating a lot of money. But it's very clear that the cost of goods is going up. Like I always look at this stuff, bro. Like I always look at this stuff. And so if I go and grab a cup of coffee, like walk across the street, grab a cup of coffee. All right. I think like an Americano, like a large one's like $5.60. And then you give them a tip because they have the little button, you hit it. All right. So like I'm out there for $7. Like not everybody wants to spend $7 freaking dollars on an Americano. Like, do you know what I'm saying? So like the cost of goods in general is insane for people that like, for like the day labor, like it, and that's, that's middle class. That's who spends. So I think that's a real problem. And I definitely think it's something that we have to, we have to focus on. I think that when you look at that, I think it's telling you a whole story here. Like when you look at like CMG and it can't get footing and yeah, man, like this thing's in a lot of trouble. These names are in a lot of trouble because what's happening there is even like the Kava and all this stuff. Like people are like, oh, well, they'll bounce. And this stuff's not going to bounce. This stuff's just going to like all this kind of stuff, like the Kava, the CBRL, like, man, that stuff's just going to like, just put it together. They're all going to continue to fall. They're all going to drop. Like there's no way that stuff's going to trade higher. Like there's just no way, right? It's just going to keep trending down. And so the question really becomes, when does that stop? John, I don't think it does. And what you're starting to see is people like to go out, they're just going to do a drive-through. Like Wendy's crushed, right? They're just doing a drive-through. McDonald's really was not awful. I know it looks awful, but it really wasn't that bad. So they're just going to do a drive-through, right? More than anything. And I think that's super important to get. That's how I see it. That's how I see it. Now, somebody else may see that, differently, but that's really how I see this shaping up. And I think that that's definitely something to pay attention to. The Sprout Farms is super interesting to me because, you still have to buy, like you're still buying food. Like I used to go to a Sprouts. It was awesome. It's like an awesome place. I don't know why we're imploding on this one, maybe because it's slowing down because people aren't going to go spend $17 on an avocado there anymore. So, maybe that's what we're dealing with. But clearly there's an issue here. And I guess this is going to fall in the category that you're talking about. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that plays out and how people's habits spend. But I don't think they're going for the $14 Frappuccino anymore. So I do think there's some issues there. And I do think there's some consumer spending issues. I actually think with what's going to happen with the tariffs that you're going to do better with some of this other stuff. That's my personal opinion, but we'll see how it goes. Yeah, we'll go through. What's up, Stan? So we'll go through a firm. I keep getting asked about this one. I don't think anything with the consumer I'd be rushing into right now. So if the low-end consumer or mid-end consumer, like I don't know who gets payments on toothpaste, but like if they're not doing well, right? The idea that this is going to miraculously, I don't know why you did that. The idea that this is, let me just set this up so that I don't have that problem again, because I almost turned this stream off by accident. Let me put this here too. The idea that they're not going to run into a problem is an issue. So now if I look at that, I'd probably be more interested in looking at this and taking a look at Move and going, are they buying bonds? Are they buying bond insurance? They kind of are. Not really, but kind of. And you're going to say, like, well, what does that have to do with this? Well, are they going to make their payments? I don't know, man. I don't know that I'd be rushing into this. Like, if they're going to smoke names that are absolutely unequivocally crushing because people are worried about the consumer and spending, they're not going to kill the consumer names. I don't see how they don't. Like, I truly don't see how they don't kill some of these other names. So that's how I say it. I almost think it's inevitable that we do, and I'd like to just get it over with. That's how I see it. But so far, that divergence we talked about, a half hour ago, still holding. So it's actually getting stronger. D-Dog, a lot of people are looking at this. I think they're crazy. I think you're absolutely crazy to be looking at a name like this. You're in day 2 of this stuff. So you always want to watch day 2, dude. It's no different than AMD. You get the initial move of the short covering where they squeeze them, and then you get the real move, right? And that's what you're getting this morning. So that's how I say it. I actually think the government ending does rally the market a little bit. Yeah, I bought MP yesterday. I made a whopping $1 on it, and then it fell out of bed, and I wasn't in anymore. But I think you can get absolutely unequivocally smoked here on that. Good morning from San Francisco. Good morning from Miami. I don't know. We're about to find out, right? We're about to find out. I don't know. I don't know how much longer it's going to hold. You're getting to the point, like if we go look at let's go look at this. What is it? I'm trying to think of what it is again. It's something weird. It's like FD, S5 FD. Is that it? Yeah, that's it. So, stocks in the S&P below the 5-day, you're still at 30. You're not at like a 1. So you're not at any kind of like trough level where the market's completely washed out. You're not there, man. So maybe you're going to get there today, right? That's when you bounced on like the 10th, right? when it gets to that like double digits, you're not there. So if you go look at that stuff like F5TW, S5TW, right? Like you're not at, oh, we're completely washed out. You're at 3. No, you're at like a 37. So none of these things, dude, are at like washed out levels, like none of them, right? So, how much worse can it get? It can always get worse, dude, like always. And so you have to go out there and protect yourself, you know, you have to go out there and protect yourself. Hands down. I mean, I'm actually going through the portfolio right now, and literally why I'm saying that, like every single trade that I have on has a hedge on, like every single one. And I tend to do that in this kind of environment because I want to participate, but I also want to trade around the hedge. So like if it dips, I can buy more. So like I have a huge hedge on SanDisk. So if it breaks 200, I have the puts. So I could buy more. So like last night when I started buying SanDisk, if it was a good quarter, like I don't really care because for the day I can just stay with it and then figure it out as the day plays on. I can deal with the volatility. But I don't know, man. I don't know that you're going to hold the way I think you are. I think you're going to bounce for sure. And then we're going to have to see what happens over the weekend. I do, and I want to get this out. I do think the government opening, yeah, it's going to be a net positive. What's up, Chris? Happy Friday. Yeah, time to put some music on, get a nice cup of coffee. What's up, Steph? I mean, the thing about it is they come for the generals last, right? So that's what my thought about D-Dog's up. I better buy that one. No, they're just going to start knocking them down like Jenga. So they just start selling everything down, right? They're not going to just go, oh, well, we're going to buy Apple. Like, no, it doesn't work that way. They're going to de-risk, right? And so like I have a ton of cash because I want them to de-risk like Seagate. Come on, de-risk. Come on down. Like de-risk Seagate, de-risk Western Digital, right? Like de-risk these names. That's really what I want. De-risk Micron. Oh yeah, it's a pig. Come on, sell it. Like that's what I want. That's really what I want. Like just de-risk them all. Come on. I want them to smoke them. And, I don't know that I'm going to get that today. I think I'm going to kind of get this, flush / bounce. And then, we'll go from there. But we'll see. Oh, SK. What's going on, Ricardo? It's holding, but I don't like charts like that. Calm. Talking dirty, talking about eggs. It doesn't seem to be holding, does it? So I'm not really feeling those names, dude. I don't know that I'd rush into those right now. Yeah, I mean, it's a pig. Like this thing's a pig. It's probably going to go back to like $5. Like, I mean, the only one that I heard that actually had their crap together, like really had it together, was IONQ. Like that was a really good call. When I listened to that, I was really impressed. But I still sold the stock when it got to 58 3/4 and it couldn't break. But like RGTI, like these things are just going to get smoked, man. Like they're going to get smoked. So what we want to do is we want them to rally up and then we just keep shorting them. Like I'm the wrong guy to ask if you're like, oh, talk to me about quantum. I'll talk to you about quantum. IBM, that's quantum. IONQ was a super, like if you're into this stuff, dude, if you're into that stuff, really go listen to that IONQ call. So happy Friday. We love it. We love it, Lynn. You smell that? It smells like fear and weakness. We love that. I think you're going to be okay. I mean, personally, but we'll see. Buy that for $1. Yeah, that's what you do there. going on? Yeah, that's true. It's funny. I was just talking to a guy from Philly yesterday. It's funny. It's very different how they talk to people down here. I don't know. I love it here. I love the weather here, man. But it's very different culturally. It's hard to beat the weather, dude. It's really hard to beat the weather. Why did SanDisk drop much more than Micron? More sellers in SanDisk than Micron. Follow me for more tips. It's just a higher beta name. Gems, buddy. Gems. She's going to say Gems. Or she's going to say Delisandros. God, that's a good cup of coffee. Yeah, I actually think, what's up, Saul? I bought IREN when I heard that call yesterday, and I just buried some. I'm like, this thing's going to be a monster. But that doesn't mean I can't see $50 on it. So you have to think about this, like how you're setting up your day, right? You got to think about how you're setting up your day. Like that call was a freaking monster. I mean, I don't know. They just took in a $10 billion contract over 5 years, paying 85%. Okay. And we're doing $250 million. So you mean we just doubled our revenue minimally off of one contract? Like it's insane the amount of money that they made off that contract. Absolutely insane. So I'm fine with it, man. Sell it down. Fine by me. And I think they might sell it down today. But that was a monster. The NBIS, I'm going to sell down today, and I'm going to go look at my levels. Let's go look at our levels. I love when we can do stuff together. And so the put wall now is 100. So did that move? Not really. So I'll tell you what I really want to do here is if I get to 100 today, I'm just going to put a little alert there because I personally, like, if I'm to look at this, see how this is here and then you reject it and you tried here and you rejected, you're getting super tight in here and you've come up far away in a short time, but the call wall's 120 and you respected that, but you're going to build in here eventually. Now, whether you build in here at 100 or you build at 60, I don't know. I don't know where you build, but for me, looking at something like this, man, like China needs access. And this is how China's getting access. And there was a guy that put a report out and I didn't like his whole report because I thought he was wrong about a lot. But the one thing he did an excellent job on was explaining why NBIS is going to be a monster. Goldman was on this name in like the 30s. And I think it was the Citron guy that nailed this thing at like he was like back in here. Like he was all over this thing at like $18, $20. Like he saw it coming. You got to give him credit where credit's due. Sky T, it's not even on my agenda, bro. Like it's not even, I'm not even looking at it. I don't think there's much for me to say about it. Is there? Like what's to say? It looks fantastic. Decent earnings. Like it's one of those things that I got buried. I mean, he's been talking about what? He's been talking about it forever. Build US, 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 US. It's the only owned and operated one in the US. Owned and operated. The other GFS is operated, but it's owned by UAE. For traveling, like that was the thing with like Expedia and Airbnb. Like that's what everyone's so concerned about. Like they're like, oh, well, Airbnb was good. Expedia was good. Yeah, you had a weak dollar. So people travel. Like they travel when you have a weak dollar. So like this kind of stuff for me, these are just outright like get a weak dollar. Now you're going to go into a strong dollar. So you probably short them. That's how I say it. But I do think the sell-off can get ugly. I'm not going to be able to get through all these. LEU, I own it. I'm hoping that it drops $40, $50 today. I wouldn't touch it here. I think there's so much good news into it at this point. I haven't been looking at that. I know. I traded this thing. Is it GSIT I traded? They had like the better chip. They're going to do this. They're going to beat. I bought it. I made a lot of money with it. I held a runner. The runner's a pig. Oh, awesome. Any issues, reach out. What's up, guys? Geo, Western Digital. What's up, Monica? Yeah, I mean, honestly, names like this, I look at these names and going, everything's getting smoked. This thing's down $2. So, but like the LEU trade, to me, I mean, I think they could smoke this thing, man. Super thin. Let me give you let's go take a look here. I got to jump, guys. I'm super late. Yeah, I mean, you went through the put wall. So where's that put us? Let's go let me go look at the book and just see where the option guys are. I mean, you went through 270 like butter. Like this thing can get ugly, dude. 220. I mean, if you break 250, like it depends on how ugly we get today. Like I wouldn't even think about adding to 250. I'm not buying 260. So just by looking at the market, I think you're getting to 250. And if you break 250, 220. So I'm hoping that it breaks, like really breaks. We get something like this. And then after that, then, the next day, and then we got to go from there. That's what I'm saying. That's how I'm saying it. But I think it looks great. So I don't go to Hat Barrel for cheesesteaks. I'm sure there are great places over there. I like Western Digital a lot, Monica. I got to jump. Guys, make good choices. The first thing you do is watch the SPY today, right? You guys got this. You got this, right? You watch the SPY today. You watch that 670 level. Yay. And then you go through and you total up your entire positions and you look at how much you have at risk. Yay. All right. Make good choices.